Chef Karen Barnaby, who has been around the scene for so many years. You've done so much for the Vancouver food scene. You know, I probably only met Karen maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. She was working at the Fish House as executive chef in Stanley Park, and she was there for many years, and she's no longer there. She's sort of retired, but she's retired off to another food, not really retired, but out of the restaurant.
It's like my job now,
right?
after being in a restaurant, is like retirement.
Okay.
We'll say it like that.
There you go. So she'll tell us all about what she's doing now and what she's done in the past. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Honestly, I'm not going to talk about that. Trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about tonight was really difficult because I was thinking back. All I could do was think back to the past 10 years in the restaurant business and how much I hated it. And I think it's a function of being older. I mean, I'm older. I'm an older chef in the business. Still, you know, not in restaurants anymore, but still in the food business. So I've been in the business for 36 years. Wow. Yeah. So but it is possible. So when I first started out, it was the most exciting thing on earth. I knew how to cook. I love cooking and I love baking especially. And I walked into a trendy restaurant that just opened in Ottawa. Like when restaurants, trendy back then was quiche and carrot cake. So that was the coolest thing on earth. So I walked in and I said, "Can you give me a job? I'll do anything." And they said, "Can you bake?" And I said, "Yes, I can." So they hired me. And that's how I started. I baked for 3 years. In the basement of this restaurant, they bought this pink 4-burner electric stove for me, and that's how I started. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was just so exciting to make food and to serve it to people, and they liked it. They, you know, it was like, wow, this is a really cool thing that I'm doing. And it was great. It was great for a lot of years. It was, you know, I moved to Toronto. I worked for the David Wood Food Shop for 5 years, and that was absolutely fantastic. David has Salt Spring Island cheese now on Salt Spring Island. He moved here before I did and established his company. And that was wonderful. Moving to Vancouver was great. First couple of years here, wonderful. Raintree Restaurant, working at the Fish House. And then all of a sudden something happened. And, you know, I couldn't figure out what it was for a long time. And what I realized was that I had gotten older and everybody kind of stayed the same. So getting older, and then everybody I'm working with is between 20 and 30 all the time. All the time, or younger, 18. Yeah. So here I was, this older, more mature person, and everybody was younger. Almost all the time, everybody in the restaurant was younger than me. At one point, the general manager was older than me, which was okay, but I became immature because of that. You know, I never. Because there was never anybody to talk to who was on the same page as me. They weren't my age, they hadn't had the same kind of experiences. And especially when it comes to food, it was like we were speaking totally different languages. I had a fantastic sous chef for 9 years. He was just wonderful. He I could talk to. Nobody else in the whole place I could talk to because they didn't know what I was talking about. So, and it makes you kind of wonder, what are schools doing and what are people doing after they leave school? I never went to school. Everything I learned on my own. I taught myself how to do everything that I know how to do today, or taught it by, or learned by watching other people. I didn't have mentors, which is kind of sad, you know, which will bring me to a point later about like the sad lack of female mentors in this whole scheme of things, the whole scheme of things we call the food business. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do instead, and you know, just go like this when you want me to shut up, because, well, it's 10 minutes, in case I start going on. You know, things that are, you know, the negatives and the positives, because there's the same side of everything. It was a good exercise for me to do because I went, it wasn't all that bad. There were some parts that were bad, but you know, there was always the good stuff to balance it out. So I started off with the 20 to 30-year-olds. You know, whiny people, no one's willing to put in the effort to get any better at anything. You know, they won't study, they will not listen, you know, no common sense. And also, you have to come to work if you want a job. It's really important. Show up for the interview. When I would put an ad on Craigslist, I would seriously get, I don't know, 30 resumes. I'd call people up. I'd call 10 people, 2 would show up.
No.
And that's not uncommon. That's not just me. It's everybody. So you get 2 people, and it's like, I need people to work. What do you do? What do you do? How do you have have your vision put out there if you can't find people, the right kind of people to do it? That was very difficult all the time, trying to get the right kind of people. Or just dress decently. I remember one night. I didn't notice this. There's this one cook down at the end of the line, and I couldn't tell because of the way he was standing, and he turned around so I could see the other side of him. It looked like he was wearing a pair of plaid pajamas, pajama bottoms, and there was a rip all the way up the side, and I was just like, we don't want to see your fat, hairy thigh. It's okay, really. And even when we told him, please, don't, you can't wear these pants, he still wore them the next day. It's like, don't do that. Don't do that. So, dealing with this all the time and just bad attitude, bad everything. And it makes me really wonder what's going to happen with the food business. If there's going to be people like this running it, it's going to be, we'll just open what we want. We'll close. We'll stand around and, pick our noses. I don't know what's going to happen. It's very scary. But I've mentored some great people. I've had some wonderful apprentices, and we're still friends, and that's been really, really enriching to have those people, and they made it all worthwhile. And I work with people too who we just laughed our heads off all night. It's been so funny. So there's that big plus side too of having people around who are younger and who are excited. Maybe it's not going to be their vocation, but at least they're present. When they're at work, they're there at work and they're doing what they should be doing, and that's a wonderful thing to see. When so many people.
Sounds rare.
It is. I think it is rare. I think if you talk to chefs, I think you'll find that it's the same thing everywhere. It's not just exclusive to me. So one of the things is bad eating habits. When there's everything around, there's mountains of French fries. I've seen so much bread consumed by servers. It's unbelievable. And kitchen staff too. There was one person I used to work with, and he used to eat pasta with cream sauce, with salmon on top, and then pour maple syrup all over it. And he said it's good. I never tried it. Maybe it is. So just because it's really hard to actually sit down and eat. Usually you're standing and eating. Usually you can eat at the end of the night. By then it's too late. By then your blood sugar is tanked. And then free pop, free coffee, forever. Very bad. Those bad eating habits. But then you can eat anything you want to eat. If you want to eat that block of janduja and nobody sees you, go ahead. Steak and king crab. Hey, why not? So, if you want to eat well, you can also really eat well. If you're working in a restaurant, because everything's there all the time. And you never have to cook at home, which is good, because then you don't have to wash up after yourself. People these days are really influenced by TV, by the Food Network. I could rant about this for probably a week. And when people come up to me and start talking to me about, becoming a chef, they always talk about what they've seen on TV. It's not like that. It is not like that. It's nowhere near that. Because if you're going to become a chef, what you have to become is a really good data entry person. You have to be a babysitter. It's not just about cooking scallops. You have to pick up stuff off the floor so nobody will slip on it, because nobody else is going to pick it up. It's true. And my giant pet peeve, when the garbage bag starts falling down into the can, lift it up and put it back over the edge. Really, just, nobody ever does that. So if you're a restaurant chef, especially in a bigger restaurant, that's what you end up doing. You're in the freezer every month doing inventory. You're there New Year's Eve day, because that's a year end, doing inventory. That's what you do. You and the sous chef are down there at 5 o'clock in the morning doing inventory. Don't do that anymore, I'm so happy. And then there's the hours of work, having to work at night. So either you get into, I don't know what people get into nowadays, or Google becomes your best friend. Or you take a hobby that maybe stamp collecting you can do like into the dead of night and doesn't require anybody else around. And also, getting back to like what a chef actually does, the buck stops with you. Everything, you're responsible for everything in the kitchen. You're responsible for making money for the restaurant. Most of the restaurants, unless they serve a lot of alcohol, that's where the money comes from. It comes from the food. So there's that. There is hiring people and firing people. Then after working a really insane shift, you have to clean the kitchen. I eventually hired cleaners because I thought it was crazy. Why should these guys be killing themselves all night and then you have to clean? It just seems punitive to me. A lot of restaurants you still have to clean. It's not fun. So through all of that, one of my favorite phrases used to be, that which does not kill you make you stronger. And then the Klingon war cry, today is a good day to die.
Oh yeah.
That's what it felt like sometimes. But I'll get back to TV because I had TV mentors too. I had the Galloping Gourmet as my mentor, and he was fabulous. And when I talk about him now, people just like go, oh, he was a drunk. Well, really. But seriously, I mean, he had such a passion for food. He loved what he was doing, and it was so obvious when he'd taste something, and his eyes would flutter, and I love that. I think that's one of the things that really got me into food. I mean, I always liked to cook. I started cooking when I was about 8 years old, and it was him that I think really pushed me over the edge. And he was the one that said, this is how you chop things, so I started to chop things the way he said to do it. So by the time I was 13, I could actually chop things pretty good. I was pretty good with a knife. So when I first went to my first restaurant when I was 20, they were amazed. Because I'd been chopping along, and the Galloping Gourmet was the person who taught me. It was wonderful. Then later on there was Madeline Command, and there was other people like that. And getting back to mentors as well, I had cookbooks as mentors. I would read Paula Wolford, and these are people that probably nobody ever hears about anymore. But they knew their stuff. Paula Wolford had it down. Everything was well researched. Madeline Command, same thing. Research. They'd be out in the field talking to people, they'd be gathering recipes from other people, and they were actually tested recipes. So you knew they'd work out. Matter Jaffrey was another one. Matter Jaffrey I think is phenomenal. Yeah, just dead on. All the stuff is good, it works. It's not like so many cookbooks today where it just doesn't work. Or recipes from the internet, forget about it. Nothing, it's crazy, and this is what people rely upon now. And it's sad that there's no more great reference materials. There's a few out there, but there's not where it was a real art to put together a cookbook at that time. And it was well respected. It was a great thing to do and be able to put it out there and people cook from it and things actually worked and you learn things from doing it. It was wonderful. So where am I? 1 minute, okay. Always being asked to donate things. Always being asked, can you come and cook this dinner for 150 people? For a fundraiser? And then for a silent auction, can you be at a cooking class in the cookbook? And it's in a restaurant, it's constant. It happens all the time. And it's like, go bug a dentist. A gift certificate for a free root canal. A lawyer. Go like someone that has a lot of money. who would love to donate. So while that got annoying at times, it helped a lot because you're only as good as the community that supports you. So if there's a community of support, that makes you stronger and that makes you what you are. So I'm very grateful for that support of the whole community around me because it's been going on for a long time and it's been a wonderful thing. And there's one more thing, and that is drug and alcohol abuse in restaurants. It's rampant, we know it, all the time. People, everybody. Drink, 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 drug, 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 sex, sex, sex. But then again, restaurants are a great place to get drugs and alcohol. I used to, when I asked one of the bartenders, I said, why is it the bartenders and the hostesses are always the ones, they always hook up, they're always having sex? And he said, it's a sight line, right? The bartenders at the bar, they're right there, they can see each other. and that's how it works. So next time you see the bartender and the hostess, kind of, you know what's going on. So thank you.